What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Bragg, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a former head coach, a young and bright assistant coach with a tremendous basketball mind, an excellent talent evaluator, a tremendous teacher, a professional, and he's an outstanding mentor for young coaches in the business. And he's a Columbus, Ohio native, Rob Summers. Now, a little bit about Rob before we bring him on. Rob had a very good career at actually two high-level places: Penn State, 2002, 2004. And then in 2000, he set out redshirt year, went to West Virginia, had a chance to play for Coach Beeline from 05 to 07, another 2 years. We had a very good career. One of them, I think, he led to the NIT championship. He was in the Sweet 16, his junior year, and like I said, the NIT championship in his senior year, where I think he still holds a record for shooting percentage at the school at West Virginia. Second all-time high in field goal percentage at West Virginia to date. And then from there, he goes and plays professionally for 3 years over in Europe. He comes back home. He has a chance to go back to West Virginia. He becomes a graduate assistant at West Virginia for Coach Huggins. He spends a year there. And then I think Coach Huggins, he didn't ask him. He actually told him he needed to go to Glenville State, and that's not a bad thing. He just thought he had a bright future in coaching, and so he goes and he becomes the associate head coach at Glenville State, also the compliance coordinator for a couple of years, and then he goes to James Madison University with Matt Brady as the director of basketball ops for 1 year, and then at 29 years old, he gets a chance to go back home, and he becomes the head coach at Urbana College in Illinois, back in Ohio. Like I said, at 29 years old, that doesn't happen. And I mean, I'm like him. There's not a lot of chances you get to become a head coach in this business. So him at 29 years old, having a chance to go back home and have his own program, that was something that I'm happy to hear because it just doesn't happen that much in this profession. And then in 2014. After 2017, after 3 years at Urbana, he has a chance to go back to James Madison. And now he's an assistant coach with Lou Rowe for a couple of years. And then presently for the last year, getting ready to go in year two, he's back at home again, close home at Cleveland State, working with someone he's probably known, Dennis Gates. And I know you and his brother knew each other pretty well, Armand. So I just wanted to welcome to the show, Rob Summers, who I had a chance to coach against when we were in the same league. He was at James Madison. I was at Hofstra. You kind of see guys from afar. You listen a lot, and there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a future head coach again, and I think at the Division I level this time. I want to welcome to the show, Rob.
Hey, thanks, LB, man. That was a great intro, man. I was sitting there like, man, who is this guy you got on the date, man? I'm going to listen to what he's got to say. But nah, I appreciate it, man. Excited to be on with you, for sure.
All right, man. Well, look, man, we're on for a reason. We're going to get unmasked. And one of the first questions I always like to ask my guests, there's no handbook, man, to being a college coach. And you came from being a player at a high level. Like I said, you had a chance to be getting your master's, which you did in 2012 from West Virginia. And so now you go and you're on as a graduate assistant at a high level, but then you go to, Glenville State. So you're going down and so this is probably the first time in a long time you dealt with, being at that level, but there's no handbook to being a college coach. Tell me about your first day, first week, first month after things are done with human resources or with orientation, especially when no one gives you direction. And that could be at any level. Like, talk about that.
I mean, I don't know how long you got, but that, going to Glenville was the best thing for my career by far, being with Hugs, West Virginia, and kind of just walking in his office and being like, Coach, I saw this job down in Glenville State, about an hour and a half south of Morgantown. you know, in a small town, never heard of before. And he said, I'm about to make a call. And he calls, he gets on the phone. I'm sitting in his office and he's like, you got to go down there and talk with the head coach. And went down there and meet with Steve and Dye, you know, the next day. And he was like, dude, I need you here. You know, I need somebody recruiting. We recruit Ohio a lot in this league. It was called the West Virginia Intercollegiate Athletic Conference back then with Shepherd and Fairmont State and all those good, you know, those really good Division II teams. And they, you know, everybody came in Ohio to recruit players. And I didn't know much about D2. You know, being a high major, being a GA, you know, you're eating shrimp, you're eating steak, you're flying charter flights everywhere. Your gear is Nike Elite, and you know, it's everything that it's great. So going down there and seeing a stoplight, it was one stoplight, a CVS, and a McDonald's. And I came back and told Hugs, said, Hugs, you didn't tell you that. I told you it was a small town. I said, Hugs, there's nothing down there, man. There's nothing. I mean, the nearest mall was 45 minutes away. The nearest movies was an hour. He said, hey, you got to take it. You got to get your feet wet in this coaching game. And, you know, a lot of my former players, you know, want me to hire them, but he's like, they don't have experience recruiting. They don't have experience coaching basketball. And, you know, you can play all you want. It's a different beast when you got to coach it. So going out there and learning trial by fire, and I give all the credit to, you know, Coach Stephen Dye, who's at Alderson Broad. He's the head coach at Alderson Broad. It's a Division II school down in West Virginia right now. He let me learn, and he didn't, you know, he took the reins and said, look, here's the school car. Go to Ohio, recruit, learn how to recruit, learn how to get these guys. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can talk to kids. You know, I've worked kids out when I was back home. You know, being in Columbus, you know, give kids, you know, certain pointers on what they should do as far as their college career goes and where they should try to, you know, start leaning forward and looking at levels and all those good things. But it was perfect for me because I learned so much in 2 years that I probably wouldn't have learned if I would have been given a different opportunity. You know, just having to drive everywhere, driving 7-8 hours and, you know, in a little Camry, you know, with a sticker on the side of it, you know, and sleeping on friends' floors. Every city I'm in, I'm calling somebody like, hey man, you know, you got a spot for me. We don't have a budget like that down here. But it taught me a lot. It taught me how to be humble, washing jerseys, sweeping floors. I was popping popcorn sometimes. I took tickets for games. I was doing everything and then going and changing into my suit and going out there and working guys out for 20 minutes before the buzzer went off. So it was just huge for my development. You know, it helped me get to Urbana as the head coach, just building a relationship with the ADs in that conference and Urbana joining that conference. Just God is good. God works in mysterious ways. He puts you where he needs to put you, even when you think you like, man, I don't know about this right now. So it was great for me.
That's awesome, and I'm glad you like what you saying that it's going to educate some of these young guys who think like, oh, I can get to. They can go from point A to point B. There's no steps. They don't skip no steps in this business, and I think that what you just said is a great education for those guys. Like all the things you did to get to where you are now. So I appreciate that information. And you just talked about it because you talked about, you know, you were, you know, driving, sleeping on the floor and all of that. Like, talk about your best and worst recruiting story, because we all know, like, recruiting is the lifeline of college athletics. It don't matter what level you are. You have to get good players, good people, and good students if you want to be successful. So talk about something that might have been your best and worst recruiting story.
Oh man, I mean, I had some good, you know, as far as recruiting, you know, I've had some good experience with some good players, you know, some guys that I thought I wasn't going to be able to get. But I think, you know, one of the most memorable for me, you know, it was not even about the player. The player was a good player. DJ Blanks was from St. Vincent St. Mary's, ended up came down to Glenville, but went to Texas Southern after that, and you know, had a good career overseas. But me and Joe Mazzulla, we worked together at Glenville State. Joe's with the Celtics right now. And he was like, Joe didn't like recruiting. And Joe knows, like, that's why Joe's working with the Celtics right now. He's like, hey, man, recruiting's not my thing. I love coaching ball. But, man, I hate, you know, I don't like the recruiting part about it. And I was like the opposite. I was like, man, I love recruiting. You know, I love recruiting and I love ball too. But, like, man, recruiting and being around these kids is, like, fun. You know, it's great to, like, build a relationship with these guys. So I bring him with because, I mean, it's you know, Joe's a point guard. You know, I'm recruiting a point guard and DJ from St. V. And, you know, he's a low major player. And so I call ahead and they're like, oh, they're playing in Canton at 4:00. And we get to Canton and they're like, oh, the game's actually at 9:00 at night. So I'm like, all right, man, what are we going to do? So we ended up going to Dick's and getting 2 baseball gloves. And we're sitting there playing catch in the parking lot at the Canton Memorial Fieldhouse for 4 hours, just out there playing catch, which is just it's just a randomest thing, but it was just so fun to like be out there. A former teammate, we're both coaching. We're both like kind of like, hey man, we got nowhere to go. Like we got no money really. You know, what we gonna do? Like, so let's just go buy a couple baseball gloves and play catch. Be like, man, let's say you play catch. So me and Joe, we talked about it because I caught him when he was in the bubble this year when they were down there, and I was like, do you remember that? He's like, dude, that was one of my favorite movies. I was like, dude, me too. Like, it was just a crazy memory that I have from that situation, and probably one of my worst memories is, I was recruiting a kid from out of Toledo, and just really built a relationship with them. And it was the first time I really like built a relationship up so really good with a kid and I lost him. And I've lost kids before. I lost kids, but it was like, all right, you talk to them, but you don't get that connection. But this kid, like, I promise we talked so many times, and I playing 2K, driving there and just playing 2K with his little brother in the living room, just like doing it in home, just playing it, like, it just really got comfortable with the family, just talking to everybody. I mean, I knew everybody in the family. And when he said that he wasn't coming, it just hurt. It was the first time it really, really hurt. And before, it was just like, all right, on to the next one. I built a relationship, but okay, it's a business. That one just felt like it just hurt me personally. Like, man, I thought that me and this kid just connected so well. We told each other, he told me everything about his life and all those things. And the kid ended up, having a good career. And I still talk to the kid this day. But when that happened, it hurt. It hurt. I ain't going front. That was the first time I actually felt the pain from the recruiting trail.
I think all of us have experienced that once. And like you said, you got to figure out how do you move on from that. And because when you put all the work in with a person, man, and you feel like you're going to get them. And then they like, Coach, I'm going with somewhere else. You distraught. You are very distraught. So yeah. I feel your pain. It's happened to me. And it's mentioned, you mentioned Joe Mazzulla, who I remember when Joe was a kid in Rhode Island. So I saw him grow up a little bit just in that basketball world. He proved a lot of people wrong by going to West Virginia and having a great career. And, and I forgot, like, when you just said that, like Glenville said, I forgot he was the head coach there. And his dad was a great dad. Rest in peace to his dad. I know he was a great man. So I knew that whole family very well for a long time. So you were with someone great. And like I said, like, I just wanted to make sure I said that about Joe Mazzulla, how not just a very good career, but also a great person as well.
Really good person. Great family. Great family.
You were named the head coach, man, like you said, at 29 years old at Urbana, and you're excited to have your own program. Like, what happens over the next few months? Because I don't think a lot of people understand. Yeah, you want to get a head job, you want to be the head coach. Now it's like you go to your desk and you're like, what's next? Because you put in this preparation and stuff to be the head coach. Talk about when you first got your job. What was that like?
Well, it was different for me just because of the Division II level. The guys go home. They weren't there for the summertime. So I got the job in May, and most of the team had already left. So for me, it was me. As soon as I got the job, I'm on the phone with every kid. I'm talking to them. I went to go visit a couple of kids that were in state, a couple of kids that were out of state. I'm on the phone calling, talking to them, and I'm like, I need to get everybody here. I need to have a team. I need to get you guys in the city in a classroom, and let's talk about where we're gonna go from here. Funny story, actually, assistant at the time that was at Urbana is with me here at Cleveland State now. Ryan Charbaugh was assistant there at Urbana. So when I get the job, and most people like this, you assistant and new head coach gets hired, you're like, hey man, what are you gonna do with me? You gonna keep me here? Are you bringing your own guy in? And at the time, I was like, look, man, I'm not the type of guy who's gonna come in and let's kick you out and put you on your butt, man. I was like, dude, if you're gonna work hard for me and you're gonna be loyal, Hugs taught me about loyalty. That was one big thing he talks about. If that's what you're about, man, I was like, look, man, we'll figure this out. And he was like, all right, great. He's like, I really appreciate that. And it's guys, and again, I say God works in serious ways because we're working together now. I said, if I would have been like, if I came in there and be like, no, I got a guy, you got to find out a different job. We're on the same staff. We're sitting here right now and we're not talking to each other. So we always joke about, man, it's just crazy how, life works. But when I came in and got the job, he said, look, I'm thinking about going out to Florida State for a GA spot. But I want to stay on with you if I don't get this graduate assistant spot. Now he ended up getting the opportunity down to Florida State, and that's how he got connected with Coach Gates and everything along those lines. But he kind of showed me each player film and said, this kid right here is getting this amount of money. And at the Division II level, it's equivalencies. It's one kid's getting a half, one kid's getting the quarter, one kid's getting, a popsicle, one kid's getting, the parachute. It's all over the place. It's like overseas basketball. I compare it to being a pro. I compare it to being a pro basketball player because some kids are making more than the others, and it just depends upon your play. So he kind of pointed me in the right direction of kind of who's a good kid, who I should keep around, who's somebody I should watch, who's who the kids that are getting in trouble. And that was my biggest thing because the culture over there was bad. And I mean, and that's first thing every head coach talks about, right? Culture. Like, oh man, the culture is bad. I got to come and change the culture. I got to come and change the culture. And so I kind of fell in that trap a little bit because I'm coming from being an assistant, being an ops guy, and I was sitting there and I'm like, I got the answers. I got the answer. I know how to run. I know how to run a program. I know exactly what to do every single time. It's going to win me so many games and it's going to make me, this great coach, And I got in and I learned a lot, from day one, and just dealing with personalities with those guys, and then getting a recruiting class put together because I had to be some more junior college kids in. So ran out and signed several kids that I thought could come in and help. At the individual level, you get a lot of junior college kids in the summertime where you're doing workouts with guys. But it was a lot of recruiting. As soon as I got in, figured out my team, figured out who wanted to stay, figured out who wasn't going to be good for us as far as just a fit personality wise. And then I got on the road and I spent probably that next month and a half just out on the road finding guys, because you're looking for those guys that are slipping through the cracks of the Division I level, guys that can't get the grades, guys that maybe have been back home, because you got the 2-year non-participant rule of kids that, 24, 25 years old, they still want to play and they can get into, get to a Division II program. So it was a lot about that, and also just continue to build a relationship on campus and the community. It's a small community. So, getting back from the road, going around to the local businesses, talking to those people, introducing myself, trying to do fundraising, huge fundraising, Division II, lower levels, you got to fundraise a lot. You're out there, doing all type of car washes and golf outings and everything along those lines. So it was just a lot. It was good for me. I was engaged to my wife at the time. So, she was living in Columbus, I'm living in Urbana. I didn't have any kids at the time as well. So it was perfect for me because I'm like, man, I just had so much time and it was my baby. And I was the type, like a lot of head coaches are, not every head coach, but a lot of head coaches, like, they just want to have their hands on every single thing. It's their first opportunity. And they're like, man, I want to make sure everything's right. I want to make sure my offense is right. My defense is right. My recruiting is right. My fundraising. I want to make sure this, that, and you're like pulling yourself so many different ways. And I was young, so I didn't know any better. And now I do. So like, nah, no, man, just give some of that stuff up to people, man. You can't be at every little engagement that you have to be at. But it was fun. It was fun. It was fun just to get the opportunity. But I definitely wore myself thin at those first 3 months on the job for sure.
Wow, it sounds like that's a lot. So I mean, like you said, you figured it out. You know what? The next time when they come around, what'll happen? Scouting reports, and this is like huge. Like we get into games, and it's you can always tell who scout it is on the sideline. It's the guy that's the most animated, and we as coaches, I don't think people understand how much time goes into those scouting reports. I mean, you're watching 6, 7, 8 game films. You're pulling stuff back from 2 years ago, and then like at the same time, it's always you got to remember, like, as much information you want to give them, as much information that we get, we can't give them everything because they got other things going on in their life, and so we think like they should know just as much as we do, and they can't obtain that information. I mean, that's just how it is. But then you got coach who you're giving the information to him. He remembers, like, whatever you tell him, he thinks is gold. And then especially when you have a kid like, hey, this kid is struggling from shooting. He's made his last 2 out of 30. Soon he gets in the game. What does he do? He makes his first 2 or 3. Coach tells you, like, you said he wasn't a shooter. No, I did not, coach.
Been there.
Struggling shooting. So, like, talk about your best and worst scouting report you may have had over the years.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one. I would say my best scouting report, just in general, was probably Radford at our place. JMU was a great one. Just the simple fact that guys came in and executed, and they were able to kind of retain some of the knowledge and be out there, knowing, Carly Jones, like, this is how he's going to play, and then really studying the film and really getting, because a lot of what's kind of important to me is a lot of personnel. I'm not super huge on plays. I'm big on actions, but I'm not like this is the exact play. Okay, because as a player, I remember myself. I was like, I didn't remember all that stuff. I just remembered actions. I remembered like, hey, this back screen ball, like, all right, this back screen now there's gonna be a ball screen. It wasn't like, and then some coaches are like, oh, they give you 40,000 names, like, all right, this one's called Frogger Flip, and I'm like, man, I'm not gonna remember that. I'm gonna remember what it looks like when it's out there as a player. And I was a pretty good high IQ player. I mean, we had a lot of good high IQ guys in Virginia, but we really weren't. I think sometimes coaches overthink that stuff, but the personnel of it, are like, hey, number 22, dude, he's left shoulder on the post, man. If he's under perimeter, he's gonna ghost every ball screen. You got to figure these things out, and like that stuff for me like really resonated. Like, all right, I know this guy's in. Like, I know what he does. I know what he does. So it's kind of like pickup. You go to a gym and you playing pickup, and you don't know a dude, and you try to test him in that first jump shot. Let's see what his jump shot is, and he hit it, and you like, oh, okay, he might be a little shooter, or somebody from that neighborhood. They tell you like, oh no, man, that's Lee, man. Lee can hit, man. You better get out there. So I think for me with counterports, is a lot of personnel. So just Radford was huge for us. That guys really knew and they keyed in on it. And you didn't have to yell, "That's a shooter! That's a shooter! That's a shooter!" Guys are treating them like everybody uses their terms. We treat them like a Ray Allen. Ray Allen. Make sure they close out on them. Nothing easy for them. And obviously being able to hold Carly Jones to whatever we did, that opportunity was huge for us. And probably I would say the worst. I would say, man, Coppin State. I think we won the game at that time, but it was tough because guys didn't retain information, and it was another one of those situations where a couple guys got off that weren't supposed to get off, and they threw in, man. Oh shoot, no, scratch that. Fordham. We went to Fordham, and Neubauer did a IN3, and I know I had never seen it in my life. You see the triangle 2, LB. You see the boxing 1. I've never saw an IN3, and he did a great job of it, and like he just threw it out there, and I was like, Coach, they say we can't shoot with the 4, and I'm like, Coach, and so that just kind of like threw everything into like this weird spin of like, dang, these guys came out and did something they've never done before. That always messes you up when either a player makes shots, like you said, LB, like some dude that never makes them, it goes off for 30, or they do something that they've never done before, where they zone, and you just like, they haven't run a zone, Coach, all year. I watched all this film. So I would say that. But that was a great question, man. That's a great question. You got some good man. You got some good questions, man. You got these things ready. I'm like,
yeah, it's interesting. I can remember I always had the scout when you were at JMU, and we playing at your place, and the kid who hadn't played, he was from Virginia, walk on. He comes in the game and he bangs a 3 at the end of the shot clock. And I'm like, and Coach turns to me, is like, who is this guy? It's like, Coach, he ain't played. Then he hits a layup. We're down at the half. I mean, we're up at the half by like 5 or 6. And this kid has scored 5 points who hadn't even really scored all year. And he's looking at me, and I'm like, Coach, I mean, what I tell you, like, he's a walk-on, he never played. But all I said was he was a shooter the rest of the game when he was on the floor, just because he made the one shot. So
no, I remember that too. I remember that. I was like, oh shoot, he hit a shot. Like we just kind of threw him in there. Like, hey man, he played good in practice, and so you said, like, I remember that. Was that the game y'all hit that full court? Y'all hit a full court one on us.
Yes, we did. We did. Elijah Pemberton hit one from about 90 feet. It was crazy.
It was on a rebound. It was a rebound off a free throw, and he just pivoted outside.
Threw it with his left hand.
Cash, number net.
I remember that. I definitely remember that. What's the biggest challenge, man, you think you've experienced since you've been in college coaching? And it's interesting because you've been in 10 years and you've been like GA to associate head coach to head coach, you were the director of basketball ops. I mean, like you've had a lot of hats and titles, but like what's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you've been in college coaching?
I would say, I mean, I don't have that challenge anymore, but I think the biggest one I was facing when I first started coaching was just comparing my journey to other people, comparing my journey to other coaches in the business, and just wanting to, and I just wasn't embracing where I was at the moment. I was, when I first started, man, I was always thinking like, man, I just want to get Division I. I just want to get that to D1, man. Like, I mean, I've been high major. I want to get the high major level. I got to get, how can I do that? What's the best way to go? And I'm, trying to, attend every little conference and calling every coach and and sending out so many letters, and I wasn't embracing myself fully. I was embracing it, but I wasn't fully embracing it. I was scared. I think I was just scared at the time, scared of not being, what I thought would be my career path, or looking at somebody. I was looking at other people and being like, well, that guy just got, that guy's a blue. He said, he's Duke now. That guy's a Duke. That guy's at Arizona State. That guy's doing this. Like, how much experience he had? And it was just wearing on me a little bit. And one thing that Darius Nichols, one of my best friends in the world, man, he sent me a letter my second year at Glenville. He was in Northern Kentucky at the time. He's at Northern Kentucky. He was assistant out of Northern Kentucky. They just went Division I, I think, that year. Did a good team. And it said, man, don't worry, you're gonna make it, Darius. And people who know Darius knows he's not, he's a great person. He's kind of quiet. He make a little joke here and there, but when he said that, we've gotten deep. We've talked about life before, but when he said that, he just randomly said it. He just randomly said it, man, don't worry, you're gonna make it. I was like, man, all right. And it was like, it kind of like from then on, I just embraced where I was at the time. Didn't really search out much. Wasn't really searching out any, after that, I think I made a call for Urbana, but like after that, I wasn't me just being so, man, how can I get there? How can I do this? How can I do that? It was just me just being like, hey man, wherever God's gonna take me, God's gonna bring me to do a good job where I'm at. And to this day, I got that thing laminated. I laminated that thing. It's actually laminated with a picture of me and my wife's first date, and it just sits in my drawer at work. And I kind of, I don't look at it as much now. I mean, I'll randomly like just be opening my drawer to grab a pen. I'll look at it, oh man, there's, and then I'll close it. But back then, I honestly would look at that thing every day. I would look at it every day. If I got discouraged or I saw something going on, I started feeling that spirit, a little bit of jealousy that you see. You kind of see in this business. You see in this business a little bit of people wanting one another. And that's across the board. Social media. Everybody wants to. They see what everybody has, but that was a big problem.
And Darius is a great guy. Darius he's been on the show, and like he's going to be a future head coach in this business. I mean, I know that. For so, sure. Got a chance to get to know him when he was at La Tech, and Shane. I mean, it's funny because they can all remember things that I didn't. Like when they first met me, Shane was at Wofford, and that was back in 2011. So great, both of them great guys, man.
LB, I'm lying. I thought y'all were related. I said y'all related to Lamar. I promise. Hey, I told him that when I saw you when I saw you when I was at JMU and we were playing. I was like, yo, Shane, are y'all related? Like I was like, I swear y'all gotta be family. Y'all gotta be family. Y'all three.
Down the road.
I was like, Virginia, that VA, y'all
VA guys, man. VA got Ryan Price. He thrown in the mix too. All of us look alike. So
yeah.
Do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? Like, what are they?
Yeah, I think sometimes I'm very approachable. I'm a tall guy, so I mean when you're 6'11", people would kind of look at you and they're kind of like, all right, how is this guy? And I try to be as laid back as anybody in this whole business of things, and be approachable and want to talk to people and want to be, that's why I smile a lot, just because, I don't want to be that type of person. It's not approachable. Somebody that you're like, man, who is this dude? Like, I have no ego. I don't have an ego about anything. And that's why I like sharing my story with people. I'm like, man, I've been in the trenches. I've been like, where it's like, there's not, I don't feel like I deserve, everything I'm given to me is through grace of God. It's like, it's nothing that I've ever done to get this. And I'm like, every time I don't even get upset about things. I don't get upset about, I used to get so upset about, a loss or this, that, and the third. I'm like, man, I'm doing what I love. I'm being around some great people. I'm having impact on certain kids. You're not going to reach every kid, but you're having impact on kids. And that's what I got into it for. So everything, all this other stuff is just icing on the cake, man. It's just a really great opportunity for me.
Good stuff. Leading to that, you're talking about kids. Like what do you, or what would you try to teach your players besides basketball?
Just life skills. I mean, we do a lot, and I've learned that from Coach Gates, man. He does a lot of things with life skills for guys. I mean, like we teaching guys how to change tires and change oil, and teaching them, doing tactics. Like it's just all like every single thing. And I'm like, oh, Coach, I never thought about that. We did a Zoom cooking class. Me and my wife taught our guys how to cook chicken parm the other day. Just had them on Zoom, got the ingredients, dropped them off at their apartments, hopped on a Zoom call like this, and we're just sitting there like, all right, guys, we pre-packaged it for them. So it was a little bit like that little, the middle of the door thing where everything comes packaged, you just kind of put in the skillet. But they got the chicken out, pat it dry, put the breadcrumbs on it, did all those things. And a lot of these guys had never did it before. And it was just little things like that I enjoy doing that, I didn't experience in college. I had some great coaches, man. Coach Beeline, Coach Jerry Dunn, Mike Maker, all these guys were great. Matt Brown, Jeff Neubauer, these were great coaches that I had in college. But they were older guys. And at that time, technology and everything wasn't what it was. So they were busy, and it's a high major level. So like they're on the road recruiting, and it's like, you don't get that personal touch with everybody. And I really want to give it to every single guy on the team, not just the post players. Obviously when you're a post coach, you just hang out with the post players and you FaceTime them all the time and you forget about your point guards. And I'm like, nah, I want to make sure I'm sitting with those guys and learning about their life and really figuring out what they want to do after this is done with. How can I help them? How can I be invited to their wedding in 10 years? How can I be invited to, attend the wedding that, how can I be the first guy one of the first people you call when you're first born, and I get a picture of them, because those are the reasons that you should be in this, because you're going to lose games and you're going to lose big at times and you're going to probably get fired at times and you're going to probably get, it's just all these crazy things that are going to happen to you. And if you lose focus on being around the kids and being around these young men and helping them and being somebody they can call on at 2 a.m. when something's wrong, then you missed the boat on it and you just in it for the wrong reasons. And that's my biggest thing about getting into it, is like, man, be who you wanted to have when you were a player.
Oh, that's awesome right there. Cooking class. I mean, that's one thing I wouldn't have thought of. That's some pretty good stuff right there. What qualities are you, like you said, you're 29 years old. You have been around Huggins. You have been around Beeline as a player. And like you had the guy who was there already who kind of told you some things, but he goes down to Florida State. But what qualities did you look for in hiring your coaches? Because I'm asking you this now, and I'm going to end up coming back to the same question later on down the road. But what qualities did you look for then, hiring the coaches?
Loyalty. I was looking for loyalty at first, but when I got the job, it was get some hard workers, because it was late in the game, and I knew some people, but it was at the Division II level. You don't have you don't have full time. It's a part-time salary, for two guys. I was able to squeeze out 2 part-time spots for myself. So I was like, man, you need to get some guys that are going to work hard. You're going to need to get some guys that are going to put you in the right situation and make you look well, and not bash you behind your back, because it's going to be tough. Your first year, no matter where you're at, unless not too many guys are getting jobs that are already programs that are established, unless you're inside the program and they just promote you within. If you're coming in from outside, a lot of the times you're taking over a program that it hasn't won, and that's the issue I ran into. Is I'm taking over a program that we were 5 games from being the all-time losing streak in NCAA history. So if I wouldn't have won a game in the first 5 days, that 5th game, I remember I scheduled like a branch campus or something, because I'm like, man, I win that 5th game. Now we were lucky enough to beat Cal. I think we beat California PA, our 2nd game of the year. So we were all excited about that. But I really focused in on loyalty, number one, and then just kind of hard work.
Great stuff, man. Loyalty is very key, especially you young guy. Make sure nobody's trying to get your job. Guys do that. That's the crazy thing about it. Now, you get the job in May. You talked about it. You don't get the kids in the summer. You come back in the fall when school starts. You're going through workouts, because now you can see what you guys are like. But I think October 15th may be an official day, Division II. I'm not sure. What was that first practice like? Forget the workout. Then we talking about what was that first practice like? And then, because everybody always talk about, man, I'll try to put all this stuff in that was in my head. But if you do that, that's going to be a 4 or 5 hour practice. But what was that first practice like? And then what was the first game like when you're finally in control of your program?
Man, I'll tell you, you have some good questions, man. I'll tell you, LBGs. That first practice, man, I think I might have went 4 hours. I mean, I'm pretty sure, and I remember, I really remember it. is that I was just so juiced, and I was 29, and I got a head of hair, and I'm just out there juiced. I mean, I'm hyped. I got on some tights and some shorts. I'm like, I'm ready to hoop. I'm hopping in drills. I'm barking. I'm on the line. I got the whistle blowing, and I'm just like going nonstop. I don't think my assistant said a word the whole time. I don't think I let my assistants get a single word in. I was like, man, I got a program. I am going to make sure this thing is we're going to be the hardest working team that you ever seen come through here. So I'm on the line for everything, and we putting in. I'm trying to put in Coach Beeline's offense. I love his two guard. So I'm trying to put in every two guard play I know. I'm starting with pit out guard through, Ricky Reese screen. We went to football. I'm calling all these plays out, and these dudes are looking at me like, what is this dude on? Because I didn't do anything with the individual. I let my assistants run the individuals, and I would come in and chime in on that stuff. But other than that, I didn't do anything. But that first day of practice, I think I was just out there going crazy. I was just going crazy. I think it was just so much excitement in my body and so much energy that it just came out as just like, what happened? But it was fun. It was fun. And then fast forward to my first game, we get, X amount of days of being out there. I want to say, 20 days or whatever we were practicing. And we're playing IUP out there in Pennsylvania, and a really good program. And again, I knew a lot about Division II from being at Glenville, but I kind of went away from Division II when I was at JMU. But so I'm still learning, who the powerhouses are. I know West Liberty and those guys. I know Shepherd's got a good program that they had when I was at, at Glenville. But IUP, with Coach Lombardi, he's a Pitt assistant, gets a head coaching job there. I walk into the arena and I go, oh, this is not Division II. Can't be Division II. I mean, it's a mid-major arena. We're on their campus. They got 20,000 students, and my kids are looking at me like, Coach, we got 800 people on campus. So they walk into there. So they just they're kind of just, blinded by the lights of it. But I'm excited. I'm juiced up again. I mean, I'm a juice coach. I'm trying to calm myself down because that first year I got a couple more technicals than I probably wanted to get. Just from being around. I think I blame Hugs. I blame Hugs all the time. Hugs, I saw you call timeouts to get technical, so I'm out there I'm at there mimicking some stuff I see from you. But that game I was juiced, and they were a good team. I think we ended up losing by 15 or something along those lines. But I was just, I was really, really juiced, and I was, again, another part where I'm spitting fire and I'm yelling and I'm screaming, and I probably shouldn't have did that. I probably shouldn't have did as much yelling as I was doing, because I am tall, and it does look intimidating sometimes when I'm yelling at referees and I'm in their face, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And they're like, man, you almost hit me in the face. You were the 3-point line, you swinging your arm. So, but it was just fun. It was fun because I never called a timeout in my life. I never called a timeout. I said, man, I never called a timeout. Like, give me timeout. I was like, give me that. As soon as you do that, you just feel good. Give me timeout. You just sit down. You sit down in that seat. You get the board. You're like, I got a board, and I'm sitting here like, this is crazy. Yeah, and you kind of take it seemed like a eternity before I said something that first timeout I called, and I said in front of those guys. Probably was like 3 seconds, but it was just like everything went quiet, and it was like, all right, this is where we at. Like, but it was fun. It was fun.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. There's a lot of energy. That's a good thing. What did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success? Because I don't think a lot of people understand, like, and when you get in this profession, it's 355, 360 days out the year. Like, you don't get a chance to spend as much time with family. You don't get to, like, your holidays is you play on the 22nd, 23rd, you go home, but you back on the 26th, or, you don't get Thanksgiving. You don't get to hang out with your friends who getting married or like going on vacation. They like, oh, when does the question I always get is, when is y'all downtime? When is your down season? Like, down? Like, it's no down. But like, what did you have to sacrifice to achieve your current level of success?
I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, you sacrifice a lot of time with your family, a lot of time with your friends. Basketball is somewhat your life, and I've learned the work-life balance as of late. I didn't understand it as a head coach. I did not have the work-life balance that I should have. I should have had when I was, as head coach, or even as an assistant at Glenville. But I was a single guy when I first got to Glenville, so I was like, man, I stay in the office all day. I mean, I get in at 6 and I leave at midnight, but like, I'll get a workout in the middle of there. I'm ordering food in there, watching film, going to the gym, get some shots up with the guys, do all those different things along those lines. So just sacrificing, that time was key. But, now you said it, you said it yourself, like you don't have downtime now. There's no, they're trying to plan a vacation. My wife is trying to plan a vacation for next time. I say, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with this COVID stuff. So you can plan a vacation now all you want. I might not be able to come. We're looking at, you look at everybody gets married in the beginning of August, right? Every coach gets married that first week. Like, hey, get married that first week of August, man, because that's that week after being on the road to AAU. So I'm like, hey, you could schedule it there and then, but who knows what this CBA does with with all this stuff going on. But it's just sacrificing that time with your family, I think, and just being away from them, during certain times that kind of is the roughest part for I think any coach, especially when you have like young kids and everything.
So true, man. Like mine is August 7th, so I was at first week of August.
I'm the 8th, man. I'm the 8th. I'm right after you, man. I'm right after you.
What is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court that you've seen?
Oh man, the strangest thing I've seen someone do outside the basketball court. Man, that is good. That is good. I've seen,
we usually don't drop names here. That's up to you. But you don't have to.
Yeah, no. I'm not gonna drop any names. But I mean, you get all the, you got the kids that get in trouble. It's like, I don't know if that's strange because you got kids that are constantly, getting in trouble, with fights and stuff like that. I saw a coach, and it wasn't one of my players, but I was there at a halftime. I saw a coach get into it with his best player, and his best player took a metal chair, and crushed it over his leg, like one of them folding chairs you see in WWE. And the kid was a big dude, and the coach had yelled him about shooting a three, and he was like, "Can't shoot that." And we were up at halftime at the time, so the coach was bad. It was a game we shouldn't have been up in, and he took the chair, and he's like, "Man, boom!" And like I was like, "What is going on?" I thought the kid was gonna fight the guy because our locker rooms are kind of close together, and the kid kind of storms off, and the kid ended up going into the stands for the rest of the game because he couldn't go nowhere. So he looked up, the kid's got his travel outfit on, and he's just sitting up there fuming. And the kid actually came back and played for them, I think, like 2 games later. And it was like, oh, he's an all conference kid too. The kid was an all conference kid. The kid was really, really good. So I was like, it was one of the moments you were like, hey man, look, we got to squash this beef because, hey man, you are pretty good. But that's probably one of the stranger things I've seen from a player.
Yeah, that's pretty strange right there. To do that, wow. Biggest accomplishment you have experienced since you've been in college coaching?
Biggest accomplishment I've experienced is, I want to say, man, it's a good one, man. You got too many good ones, man. But I think, and to be honest, it's coming in here last year with Coach Gates, and it not being a situation that was, people were looking at it as something that was good. Everybody was on the road like, man, Cleveland State lost their staff, and who's going to take that job? It's August, and they got dope players. Everybody's in the portal. And so when Coach called me and was like, look, that's what I'm planning on doing. Let's sit down and talk, get on FaceTime with them, spend 3 hours with them. And I'm loving this vision. I'm living everything he's talking to me about. I'm like, Coach, man, like, let's do this thing. And then seeing the growth of the program through last year and what he was able to do and what our guys bought into for the whole year. And then to see him get Coach of the Year in the league in his first year in the Horizon League, like, and for us not to be, it wasn't like we won 30 games. It wasn't like we just came out and won a championship. Yeah, you give it to the guy that won a championship. You have your first year guy and you won a championship. Yeah, they're gonna give it to you. That makes sense. But for us, I think we finished middle of the pack last year. And I was like, Coach, you took a program that a lot of people just were scared of. They didn't want to be around. And you made it into something where people, every game I'm getting phone calls of people like, man, your guys play so hard, man, your guys do this, and then for the, people to recognize that from him, and for me to have some type of influence. And I don't know what little part in that I had, but I would like to say, I had a little part. And he always says that we won this award as a staff, and he's making us feel included on it. But just to be a part of that for me, and as a coach, was just cool to see, because I'd never been on staff with anybody who had won a Coach of the Year, and I've never seen it. So for him to get that in year one was just really, really cool to see.
That was awesome. No, he did a great job. I mean, a great job of their program in year one, and you guys will be fine. Y'all should be, have some. That program is going to be back to where it was, like when it used to be really good. I don't think people remember those days. I'm old enough to remember that. So
hey, they had a rocket up here. I'm telling you, they had a rocket up here. So we keep telling them, like, look, guys, they had a rocket here, so it can be done, and it will be done. But it's a process. So
yeah,
and they want you to be good.
That's definitely the case. Like, what's your favorite word or phrase that you like to use?
Oh man, I got a lot of phrases. I still Hugs phrase, get to the ball. I say that a lot. I say get to the ball every time. Like, the ball's whether it's being swung, whether it's a loose ball, I'm just yelling, get to the ball, get to the ball. So, our guys laugh at that one. And I'll always use it with our big fellas, and our players laugh at it. They say, Coach, you're kind of old, man. I was like, man, you gotta drop that hitch on that trailer, man. You gotta drop that hitch. You gotta peel out, man. You gotta peel out. And the good guys are like, Coach, why you drop the hitch? Man, you look like you're pulling something behind you, and you can't really get out them gates. So I use that with my other bigs all the time. So that's been, I think those two I probably say a lot. And then if my players, you hear the players making fun of you, and you hear what they're trying to make their voice sound like you, and they try to pull and you got guys trying to pull their hair back and like, man, Coach, get to the ball, and they yelling and they jumping up and down. That's those probably, I think that's maybe, again, man, these are questions you never get these type of deals. You get on to get the generic stuff. You thoughtful stuff going on.
Yeah, I try to make this, man. You know what? It's the show. It shows you who you are, because people don't get to see this. You know what I'm saying? They don't get to see this. They don't. And I always say it's therapeutic, because there's stuff that people think about that they never talk with anyone else about. Educational, because it's teaching young guys. I mean, most guys in this business, and then it's entertaining. I throw a couple of entertaining questions in there, and people figure it out. But I mean, it's more for you. That's why I don't do the side by side. Is like when you're talking, it's all about you. So that's how I kind of do it that way, and that's what I like. Because at the end of the day, this is about you. It's your interview, and I have nothing to do with it. And I like to ask questions that everyone else wants to ask, or they just don't know, and just gets to know you a little bit. So I'm gonna ask you this: what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Man, best piece of advice I've ever been given. It's probably from Hugs. Hugs told me, don't be a partier. Don't be a partier on the road with recruiting, because coming in as a young assistant coach and you're single and you're out and it's a summertime and you're down in Orlando for AU Nationals, and as soon as games are over, and you, like I said, when you're 27 years old, 26, 27 years old, you're gonna want to hang out. And he was like, you don't want to be labeled that guy. He's like, you just don't go out, man. He's like, just don't be the partier. Don't be the partier, because people are going to look at you as if you're not professional, as if somebody who can't go on the road and get up for those 7 a.m., 8 a.m. AAU games and really give a solid evaluation. And one great thing that, and it kind of resonated with Coach, I thought with Coach Gates when he was, offering me the job here. He's like, look, hey, look, I keep tabs on every single guy on the road. He's like, as assistant, I was writing different notes down about guys I saw on the road and who would I hire and who would be good fit. And, if I got this job, would I hire this guy? Or this guy shows up early, but he looks like he's been out late. This guy, and so that was that. I was like, man, that's crazy that Hugs was like, dude, don't be a part. They'll be that guy as a young coach. If you're that guy as a young coach, people are going to trust that you're going to really get the job done for them, because again, you're inexperienced and they just think that you're just out there just trying to have fun. So that was probably one of my biggest, the biggest piece of advice he gave me early.
That's great advice, though. He's 100% right on that. Now I ask this because you're not a selfish guy. I think you're not a self promoter, because I'm going to say that. I've seen you. I've watched you, and like, I mean, that's the one thing I do. I listen to people a lot, and so I'm gonna ask you this: if you had to choose 3 adjectives to describe yourself, which would you choose?
Phew, geez, man, that's good. That's good. Man, just humble. I'm just humble. I'm like, and like, people say they're humble, and I'm just like, man, I'm like just humble from like, I I just know that I don't deserve anything that I get. So it's like I just don't deserve it. So people like, I don't know if anybody like, because you look at people like, oh man, you got this. I'm like, I'm just humbled by everything that I've ever received ever. Because even as a player, I wasn't I made shots. You say, oh, you second all time in field goal percentage. I'm like, man, I took the ones that Darius passed me. I laid it in because I was like, hey man, I mean, I'm not the guy. Darius the guy. Frank, those are the guys. I'm just gonna lay the ball in and play my role. And I was just like, I'm just so happy to play my role. I was wanting to be, around those guys. So just humbled for everything. Like I'm just not saying like, people say they're humble. It's like, yeah, humble because you just call yourself humble. Like you're like hard work. You labor yourself all these things. But I would say that as far as I say God fearing. I'm just God fearing. I just I give and like I get. I know that's a cliche. That's a thing that everybody says, man. Glory to God, like glory to God, glory to God. But I know that I don't. I need Him, and He's got to give me everything. And I think that my career has shown that He's shown me every time that I thought that I was going to do something on my own. That nah, you gonna do this because I got this in the plan for you at this point in time with this marrying my wife and meeting my wife to job opportunities to my children to all that stuff. So I would say that and just energetic, man. I just love to give out good energy, positive energy. Like that's the biggest thing for me is that there's not enough. These kids don't, and I think that's a big thing when I came into coaching. These kids don't get enough positive people in their life. Just people like, hey man, I'm proud of you, man. Keep it up. And you got to hit it. You got to put them in a headlock. You got to give them a hug when, you got to give them a headlock when they need them, go to class, all that stuff like that. But you got to hug them. You got to hug these men because these guys that don't receive that. They don't. How many dudes tell them they love them? How many men are haven't told them they love them in their life? And it's just cool to see these guys. They almost feel uncomfortable now when you don't tell them you love them. Hey man, I love you. I love you, man. I'm gonna talk to you later. And guys like, Coach, you ain't telling me you love me, man. Like you were supposed to tell me you love me when you got off the phone, man. What's going on with that? So I think those are three things, man. But I definitely am a shooter. I'm humble to be on this thing, man, because I ain't never think I'd be on that, man. I've seen some of the prime time people be on this on your show, and it's just crazy to be on here. So I appreciate you, LB.
Nah, I'm glad you could come on, man. I'm glad you could come on as soon as I called. You talked about hugs. You talked about beeline. You've had some guys in your life like that's been good, and I like to ask this question to people because it's not always the same answer for everyone. But like, what person and or event has had the most influence on your life?
Man, those two obviously, I've called on several occasions about several things just to get their thought processes on it, whether it's taking a job or, a situation I've run into running my own program and it's being like, Coach, have you ever had this happen? Have you ever had kids, when kids get in a fight in practice, how do you handle that? When kids, do those things. So those two definitely have given me countless amounts of advice. But I would say, Jerry Dunn, who was my head coach at Penn State and was a huge reason I went there. We weren't very good my first year and Coach Doug got let go. But I was just when he came in and I kind of blew up in my senior year. So I committed early, and I blew up and people were like, dude, decommit, man. You decommit, you get better things. And I was like, man, this dude really came into my house and really felt like he was a part of my family. I was like, I can't do that to him. So when I was at Penn State with him, going to church with him, just like having him talk to me about certain things about life and just feeling like he was like an uncle, and then from, staying at Penn State from that second year, with new staff and then feeling like, I need to make a move. And then Coach Dunn calling me again and be like, look, man, I'm not a head coach, but I'm assistant coach here at West Virginia. And I think you would fit well in what Coach Beeline's doing. And then going there and being alongside him has been huge. And like I said, it's not even Coach Dunn talking me about X and O's. It's just pretty much just him just being a positive influence in my life from a coaching standpoint that I really enjoyed. And it made me feel like, all right, if I could be that at a young, because Coach Dunn was old. He was like an old uncle. Like, so, I'm like, if I had somebody who would, when he talked to me, I was like, all right, I can relate to you because you know where I'm coming from. And I'm getting old. I'm 36. And I'm gonna but I can tell you, I know TikToks, I know, and I know that I have my Instagram, and I know, and I got myself an Xbox X series, and I can be on there. So, just being around those guys and them seeing that. So when I give them little nuggets, they're like, all right, coach, know what he's talking about a little bit. And I think I struggle a little bit with Coach Doug. I'm like, Coach, you're so old, man. You don't really know, but he really had a great influence just on me as a player. So he just to this day, I appreciate everything he did for me and making me want to pursue this profession too.
Coach Don, we it's interesting you say that because we bring his name up quite often when we're on some Zoom sometime. I think people don't realize like how good of how actually before whatever happened at Penn State as like he started losing, but you go back and look at his record there, like they did some really good things there. And that's what I don't think people understand a lot of times.
Exactly. They don't. They don't.
Like today, like, did he or did he not get a fair chance? But he is one of the great business. Both him and his brother, I thought they were always great to me when I was a high school coach before I even got into college coaching. So those were great guys, and so I mean, I'm glad to hear you say that with Coach Dunn. I'm gonna ask this question, and I almost stayed away from it because I'm trying to remember. I don't remember ever hearing anything or don't know about it. But like, what was the most stressful? Because I mean, you do have some stressful times in this business, and a lot of people don't talk about it. Like, what was the most stressful situation that you faced since you've been in the business?
Man, I would say, we got into a fight when I was at Urbana. We got into a fight, and I never seen a fight before in a game before. And I think that night I was like, I felt like I don't even talk about this that much. It happened. The film is like probably been burned because the suspensions come out and all stuff like that. But they're like, we don't want this to get on, because you see fights at games, in Division 2 level sometimes, and it gets on ESPN or it gets on YouTube and it catches off like fire and it goes viral. But we got into a fight, and it was bench clearing one, punch was thrown, nothing was landed, but it just looked bad. And I got in at night. I'm sitting with my assistants at my house, and I'm just about 4 a.m. and we're just like sitting there. And I'm like, man, like I might be done. Like I might be done. And this thing, looking back at it, and I'm like, man, but I'm just sitting there like, man, I might be done. Like my guys they go off the bench. A couple guys throwing fights. At the time we hadn't won a lot. We hadn't won a lot of games, so I'm nervous about that. And I get in the next day though. I get in the next day and I'm meeting with the president and I'm meeting with my AD, and they're like, man, you're good. You're good. You're good. We know what you're about. He's like, we know what you're about. We know it's just a one instant, because what was crazy. It was a student came out the stands and got into the fight with the other team. So my team just came in because they knew the kid. So they come in too. And I'm like, dude, and I'm like, with the student is, I'm like, this kid who's been around, and I'm like, I'm sitting around the guys, and he comes in and he jumps out the stands and he's fighting these guys, and our guys are clearing the bench. But the AD and the president were great, and they were like, man, you're great, you're good. Like, we know what you're trying to build here. We see the kids that you really are trying to put into the program, and we've been around you enough to know that like this is a crazy situation, but this isn't what you're about. So we end up, guys got to their suspensions that they were supposed to serve, and all those things. But at the time was the most stressful thing I've ever seen, because I've never been a part of a fight. I've lost games. Like, so yeah, losing games and getting blown out, like that happens. Like, you lose games and you can get, you can get throbbed. I've been throbbed before, and I'm sure I'm going to get throbbed again. I'm not one of the things that like, I'm never going to lose again big. I'm going to lose again big at some point in time. But, I think that one just stood out to me just because I never really saw it live. I never saw a fight happen and didn't know kind of the process behind it. So I was just, my immediate thing was like, man, I might not coach basketball anymore because I'm going through this.
Yeah, that could be stressful, especially like you say, you don't know, because you never know what ads and presidents are thinking. So that's good that they saw the same vision you had. That's big. When you get another shot, and when I say that, like, it's not like you actually left there to go move up. So it wasn't like some guys, they get fired at this spot. No, you left Urbana as a head coach to go to Division 1. Obviously, you got bigger, you have dreams. So when you get a shot to run your own program again, you become a head coach. What changes would you make? Because it's going to be different. It depends on where you go. What would you make from the type of staff that you had to the style of play? and the type of players in your last program? And it all depends on where you go. Like, what I'm gonna ask you this: what would you want to your program to be like? Is what I basically what I'm gonna ask you.
I would want my program to be one that, is similar to how we have it here, man. Just like everybody's just super connected. And I think that starts with your staff. Like you said, it starts with your staff of, having loyalty. And some people say like, don't hire guys that, you're your friends, or don't hire guys, And I'm like, man, I want to hire the right people that I know, the right people that I know. Because yeah, you can interview a guy and you can, get a good reference from a guy that who kind of knows him. But unless it's like sometimes I think like unless it's like your guy and it's your man that says like, dude, I'm telling you, but you gotta hire this guy. And you're like, man, I trust you so much that I know this dude is not gonna, he's gonna come in ready to work. So for me, because I want to be around some guys that I can be myself around. I want to be around some guys that are going to, even when I'm making stupid mistakes and I'm doing dumb things, they can tell me, but they're never going to, be like, they want me to be successful. And in this business, man, sometimes guys don't want you to be successful that are even on the same staff as you, and I've seen people not talk to each other and be like, man, I hope that dude, doesn't make it. And it's just, I want to be around some guys that are really giving all positive vibes all the time and keeping, and not being fake about it, not just being like, oh, rah, this, rah, that, like tell you when you're messing up, but be like, hey man, look, man, I love you, coach, but I don't think that's a good idea. But if it's what you want to do, let's rock out with it and let's figure it out. So I would want my program to kind of just look like that, just look so united on all fronts that even when stuff goes wrong, nothing crumbles, because I think that sometimes that's the biggest, sign of things that when adversity hits is everybody starts scurrying, everybody start, doing their own thing, and everybody started with a little, everybody started bickering and trying to figure out what's going on. And I just want a program that looks like that, a program that, that runs like a well-oiled machine. And I would release, I think I held on to a lot of things as a head coach that I should have just given to assistants. I should have just, hey, you got that, you got this, you got that. I'm gonna take care of the managing of everything, but I'm gonna let you guys run that stuff. You guys got to run that stuff because you guys gonna be head coaches, and I want to make sure that I'm putting them in situations where they're getting that experience to run practice and run a program while I'm doing the management stuff, but people got to see them, and I think Coach Gates does a great job of that. People got to see us running things to see that we know how to manage a program. And I'm going to put those guys, when I get opportunity, I'm going to make sure that I'm putting myself in that same situation.
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, I like to always end with this question. Like I always start with one and I end with one. Like knowing what you know now, like what would you tell your young or younger self to prepare for as an assistant or even a head coach? I'm going to say as a head coach because I feel like you're going to be a head coach one day, another head coach again. So what would you, because like you said, you was 29 when you first got your job. Like what would you tell your young self to prepare for as a head coach?
To prepare for, the ups and downs, like, and to really not get too high and get too low. And again, cliche things that everybody hears, but you got to hear it. Maybe you hear from yourself. Maybe you got a time machine, you go back in time and you got bald Rob Summers talking to full head of hair Rob Summers. And I'm like, look, man, you're going to experience some bad times. You're going to experience some great times. Like, just don't get so high up there, when those great times are coming, really enjoy them. But when the low times come, don't just wake yourself up in the middle of the night, because there was points in time where it was 3 a.m. and, the 29-year head coach, I'm waking up like, man, I got to win. Like, it's just like you start thinking about these things that you start watching film at, 4 a.m. and you like, you're going to drive yourself crazy. You're going to have something's like, you're going to give yourself health issues if you sit around and you go through these things. So I would tell myself that, man, just don't get too high, don't get too low, work hard, be good to people, like, continue to do what you're doing, but just really don't focus on your record. When as a young guy, don't focus on your record, don't focus on the wins and losses, because those are going to happen, and just focus on the development, focus on being a good person, being a good man around them, because that's the stuff a lot of guys ain't gonna remember. Some guys we remember your record. Yeah, you have bad record. We weren't very good, but they gonna remember more or less how good of a man you were and what type of person you were to them.
So true. That's so true. Well, look, man, Rob, man, I want to thank you again for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there anything you want to leave with the viewers, man, before we go?
I appreciate being on here with you. You said it before. You said about young guys in the game and guys coming up and guys feeling like, because everybody wants to get their foot in the door. And I would just tell people, anybody trying to get their foot in the door, man, take the opportunities that come to yourself. You know, doors that are going to be open. Doors that need to be closed will be closed for you. You know, stay prayed up, stay focused. Don't be discouraged, man. You know, and that's my words for them.
Great stuff right there, man. Well, look, I want to thank you viewers for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guest as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.